The sun was setting over New Memphis Colony when Maya Johnson loaded the last crate of synthetic milk into her hover truck. She wiped sweat from her forehead and checked her delivery list one more time. 3 more stops in the Riverside district, then she could go home and rest her tired feet. Maya had been doing this job for 15 years now. Every morning she woke up at 5, loaded her truck with milk and nutrient packs, and drove through the rough parts of the colony. People depended on her. Families with sick children knew Maya would always show up, even when the weather was bad or the roads were dangerous. The hover truck hummed quietly as she drove through the narrow streets. Old buildings lined both sides, their metal walls rusted and patched. Most of the streetlights were broken. Maya knew every pothole and every shortcut in this part of town. She had delivered to almost every family here at some point. Her first stop was the Williams family. Mrs. Williams had 3 young kids and worked double shifts at the mining station. Maya always made sure to bring extra vitamin supplements for the children. Mrs. Williams paid what she could, and Maya never complained about the rest. The second stop was Mr. Chen, an old man who lived alone in a tiny apartment. His hands shook from years of working in the mines, but he always insisted on carrying his own milk bottles. Maya let him, knowing it made him feel independent. Her last stop was Building 47 in the worst part of Riverside. The building had been condemned twice, but people still lived there because they had nowhere else to go. Maya carried 2 bottles of milk and a pack of protein bars up the creaky stairs to apartment 12. As she reached the 3rd floor, Maya heard shouting. Then she heard crying. A child was crying, and it sounded wrong. Not the normal crying of a kid who dropped a toy or scraped a knee. This was the sound of fear and pain. Maya set down her delivery and walked toward the noise. It was coming from apartment 15. The door was thin and cheap, and she could hear everything inside. "Stop moving, you little brat," a man's voice yelled. "Please, don't hit me anymore," a small voice begged. "I didn't mean to spill it." Maya heard the sound of a hand hitting flesh, then more crying. Through a crack in the window blinds, Maya could see inside the apartment. A large man with a red face was standing over a small boy. The boy couldn't have been more than 8 years old. His face was already swollen, and blood ran from his nose. A woman lay on the couch, not moving. Empty bottles were scattered around her. She was either passed out drunk or drugged. Maybe both. The man raised his hand again. The boy curled up in a ball, trying to protect his head. Maya didn't think, she just acted. She kicked the door as hard as she could. The cheap lock broke and the door flew open. The man spun around, surprised. "What the hell are you doing?" Maya demanded. The man was bigger than Maya, but she wasn't afraid. She had served in the Colonial Defense Force before she became a milk delivery driver. She knew how to handle bullies. "Get out of my house," the man slurred. Maya could smell alcohol on his breath from across the room. "This is none of your business. When you're beating a child, it's everyone's business," Maya said. She stepped into the apartment and moved between the man and the boy. The man reached for something on a table, a plasma cutter, the kind used for mining work. The tool could cut through metal, and it would definitely cut through a person. "I said get out," he repeated, waving the cutter at Maya. Maya had dealt with plasma cutters in the military. She knew they were dangerous, but she also knew they were slow to power up. She lunged forward before the man could activate the tool and grabbed his wrist. They struggled for a moment. The man was bigger, but Maya was sober and angry. She twisted his arm until he dropped the cutter. Then she pushed him hard against the wall. "Touch that boy again and I'll call Colony Security," she said. The man laughed. "Colony Security won't do nothing. Half of them owe me money. The other half are too scared to come to this part of town." Maya knew he was probably right. Colony Security was corrupt and lazy. Even if they arrested the man, he would be out in a few hours. Then he would take his anger out on the boy. She looked at the child. He was small for his age, with dark hair and frightened brown eyes. His clothes were dirty and too big for him. He reminded Maya of her younger brother, who had died in the mining accident that brought her to New Memphis. The woman on the couch stirred slightly, but didn't wake up. Maya could see needle marks on her arms. Drug addiction was common in the outer colonies where life was hard and hope was rare. Maya made a decision that would change everything. "What's your name, son?" she asked the boy gently. "Danny," the boy whispered. "Danny, do you want to come with me? I can take you somewhere safe." The boy looked at the unconscious woman, then at the angry man, then back at Maya. He nodded slowly. Maya gathered the boy's few belongings, some clothes, a worn-out toy spaceship, and a picture of a woman who looked like his mother but healthier and happier. She wrote a quick note explaining where the woman could find her son when she got clean and sober. As they left the apartment, the man shouted threats, but he didn't try to stop them. He was too drunk and too cowardly to fight a sober opponent. Maya drove Danny to her small apartment above the milk depot. She cleaned his wounds, gave him food, and let him sleep in her bed while she took the couch. The next morning, she would start the legal process to become his guardian. That night, as she listened to the boy's steady breathing, Maya wondered if she had done the right thing. She barely made enough money to support herself. How could she take care of a child? But when she thought about leaving Danny in that apartment, she knew she had made the only choice she could live with. Sometimes doing the right thing meant taking a risk. Sometimes it meant changing your whole life for someone else. 3 months after Maya brought Danny home, the nightmares still came every night. She would wake up to the sound of him crying in his sleep, calling out for his mother or begging someone to stop hurting him. Maya would sit on the edge of his bed until he calmed down, sometimes singing old songs her grandmother had taught her. Danny was smart, but he was afraid of everything. Loud noises made him jump. When Maya raised her voice, even to call him for dinner, he would curl up in a corner. He flinched every time someone moved too quickly near him. The school counselor said it would take time. Children who had been hurt the way Danny had been hurt needed patience and love. Maya had plenty of both, but some days were harder than others. Maya worked longer hours now to pay for Danny's clothes and school supplies. She took extra delivery routes on weekends and holidays. Her old hover truck broke down more often, and the repair bills ate into her small savings. But every time she saw Danny smile, she knew it was worth it. Danny loved to read. Maya bought him books whenever she could afford them, usually secondhand copies from the colony's small library when they cleared out old stock. Danny read everything: stories about space exploration, books about Earth history, manuals about how machines worked. His favorite books were about the early days of space colonization. He would read about the brave men and women who left Earth to build new worlds among the stars. Maya would find him sitting by the window, looking up at the night sky, dreaming about distant planets. At school, Danny was quiet, but excellent at math and science. His teacher said he had a gift for understanding how things worked. He could take apart broken electronic devices and figure out how to fix them. Maya's neighbors started bringing him their broken appliances, and Danny would work on them in the evenings. When Danny turned 10, Maya saved enough money to buy him a real computer tablet. It was old and the screen had a crack down the middle, but it could connect to the colony's education network. Danny spent hours learning about engineering and space technology. One night, Danny asked Maya why she had saved him. "Because it was the right thing to do," Maya said simply. "But you don't even know me," Danny said. "And now you have to work all the time to take care of me." Maya sat down next to him on the small couch they shared. "Danny, do you know what my grandmother used to tell me?" Danny shook his head. "She said that we don't get to choose the family we're born into, but we can choose the family we make. You're my family now. That's all there is to it." Danny hugged her tight. It was the first time he had hugged anyone since she brought him home. By the time Danny turned 12, the nightmares came less often. He still had bad days, but he was learning to trust Maya completely. He called her Mama Maya, and she called him her boy. Danny started talking about joining the Colonial Defense Force when he grew up. He wanted to explore new worlds and help protect human colonies from pirates and hostile aliens. Maya worried about him going into danger, but she supported his dreams. She told him stories about her own time in the Defense Force before she came to New Memphis. She had served on a patrol ship that protected supply convoys between the inner and outer colonies. It was dangerous work, but she had been proud to serve. The Defense Force teaches you discipline and responsibility, Maya told Danny. But more important, it teaches you to protect people who can't protect themselves. When Danny was 14, he grew tall and thin. Maya had to work extra hours to buy him new clothes every few months. He was still quiet around strangers, but at home he talked constantly about his studies and his plans for the future. Danny's grades were so good that his teacher suggested he apply for advanced placement courses. The courses cost extra money, but Maya found a way to pay for them. She took a second job cleaning offices at night after her milk delivery routes were finished. Danny didn't know about the second job until one night when he woke up and found Maya asleep at the kitchen table, still wearing her cleaning uniform. He realized how hard she was working to give him opportunities she had never had. The next day, Danny got a part-time job helping Mr. Peterson fix hover vehicles at the local garage. Mr. Peterson had been watching Danny work on electronics for years and knew the boy had talent. Danny gave all his earnings to Maya to help with expenses. "You don't have to do this," Maya told him. "Yes, I do," Danny said. "We're family. Family helps each other." When Danny turned 16, something amazing happened. A representative from the Mars Technical Institute visited New Memphis Colony to recruit promising students. Danny's science teacher had sent examples of his work to the institute months earlier. The representative, Dr. Susan Wright, met with Danny and Maya in their small apartment. She reviewed Danny's grades and test scores, then asked him to solve several complex engineering problems. Danny worked through each problem carefully, explaining his thinking as he went. Dr. Wright nodded and made notes. "Danny," she said finally, "how would you like to attend the best technical school in human space?" Danny looked at Maya, his eyes wide with excitement and fear. "It's a full scholarship," Dr. Wright continued. "Tuition, room and board, everything, paid for. But it means leaving New Memphis and going to Mars." Maya's heart broke a little, but she smiled at Danny. "This is what you've been working towards, son. This is your chance." That night, Maya gave Danny a small pendant that had belonged to her grandmother. It was simple silver with a small star in the center. "This will remind you of home," she said, "no matter how far you go." Danny had never seen anything like Mars Technical Institute. The campus covered 3 square miles under a massive dome that let in the red Martian sunlight. Buildings made of gleaming metal and glass stretched toward the artificial sky. Students from dozens of human colonies walked between classes carrying tablets and talking about projects Danny could barely understand. His first day was terrifying. Everyone else seemed so smart and confident. They used big words and talked about concepts Danny had only read about in books. Many of them came from wealthy inner-colony families and had attended the best schools since childhood. Danny's roommate was Kevin Park, a friendly boy from Europa who had grown up in a family of engineers. Kevin's father designed fusion reactors for passenger ships. His mother worked on terraforming projects. Kevin had been building robots since he was 6 years old. "Where are you from?" Kevin asked as they unpacked their belongings. "New Memphis," Danny said quietly. Kevin looked confused. "I've never heard of that colony." "It's on the outer rim. A mining colony." Kevin nodded politely, but Danny could tell he had no idea what life was like on a place like New Memphis. Kevin's clothes were new and expensive. His computer equipment was the latest model. He had never worried about having enough food or whether the power would stay on. Danny's first classes were harder than anything he had ever done. Advanced physics, quantum mechanics, theoretical engineering. The professors spoke quickly and expected students to already know things Danny was hearing for the first time. In his second week, Danny almost quit. He called Maya on the colony communication system, which took 3 days for messages to travel between Mars and New Memphis. "Mama Maya, I don't think I can do this," he said into the recorder. "Everyone here is smarter than me. I don't belong here." 3 days later, Maya's reply came back. "Danny, my boy, do you remember when you first came to live with me? You were scared then too. You thought you didn't belong anywhere, but you worked hard and you learned and you grew strong. This is the same thing. You belong there because you earned it. Don't you dare give up now." Danny played Maya's message 5 times. Then he went to the library and started studying harder than ever before. Slowly, things got better. Danny discovered that while other students might know more theory, he understood how things actually worked. Years of fixing broken appliances and helping at Mr. Peterson's garage had taught him practical skills his classmates lacked. In his engineering design class, students had to work in teams to build a water purification system. Danny's teammates wanted to use expensive components and complex computer controls. Danny suggested a simpler design based on systems he had seen in the outer colonies. "That's too basic," said Lisa Wong, a girl from the Luna colonies. "This is supposed to be advanced engineering." "Sometimes the best solutions are simple ones," Danny said. He had learned that from Maya, who always found practical ways to solve problems. Danny's design worked better than any other team's project. It was cheaper to build and easier to repair. Professor Martinez, who had grown up on a frontier colony herself, praised Danny's practical approach. After that, other students started asking Danny for help with their projects. They realized that his experience with limited resources and improvised repairs gave him insights they couldn't get from textbooks. In his 3rd year, Danny joined a research project studying ancient alien artifacts found on abandoned worlds. Dr. Helen Ross, the project leader, had discovered strange devices on a planet called Kepler 442b. The devices seemed to generate energy, but no one could figure out how they worked. Danny spent months studying the artifacts. The other researchers focused on the complex alien writing and advanced materials. Danny looked at the practical aspects, how the devices were built, how the parts fit together, what they were designed to do. One night, working alone in the lab, Danny had a breakthrough. The alien devices weren't just energy generators. They were communicators. The energy patterns they created carried information across vast distances, faster than any human technology could manage. "This could change everything," Dr. Ross said when Danny showed her his findings. Instant communication across the galaxy. No more waiting days or weeks for messages between colonies. Danny's discovery made him famous at the Institute. Scientific journals published his research. Other universities invited him to speak at conferences. But Danny never forgot where he came from or who had made his success possible. Every month, Danny sent money to Maya. It wasn't much at first, just his small research stipend. But as his projects became more important, the payments grew larger. He also sent her pictures of Mars and stories about his classes and friends. Maya's replies were always full of pride and encouragement. She told him about life in New Memphis, about her delivery routes and the people she met. She never complained about her own problems or asked for more money than Danny sent. In his final year, Danny's research attracted attention from the Colonial Defense Force. Captain Robert Stone visited the Institute to meet with Danny and Dr. Ross. "We've been following your work on alien communication technology," Captain Stone said. "The Defense Force could use someone with your skills. We're developing new defensive systems for the outer colonies." Danny thought about Maya and New Memphis, about all the colonies on the frontier that needed protection from pirates and hostile aliens. His research could help keep people safe. "I'm interested," Danny said. After graduation, Danny joined the Defense Force as a research officer. His first assignment was aboard the exploration ship Aurora's Dream, searching for more alien artifacts in uncharted space. As the ship left Mars orbit, Danny touched the silver pendant Maya had given him. He was going farther from home than ever before, but he carried her love with him among the stars. Commander Danny Martinez stood on the bridge of the starship Horizon's Edge as it approached New Memphis colony. 20 years had passed since he left this place as a scared teenager with nothing but dreams and a silver pendant. Now he wore the uniform of a Colonial Defense Force officer, with ribbons and medals that told the story of his achievements. The colony looked different from space. The mining platforms were mostly automated now, dark and empty. Only a few transport ships moved between the orbital stations. Danny remembered when dozens of cargo haulers would arrive each day, loaded with supplies for the thousands of miners who worked here. "Sir, we're receiving landing clearance from New Memphis Control," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, his communications officer. "Take us down, Lieutenant," Danny said. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. He had not seen Maya in person for 5 years. Their last video call had been 8 months ago, and even then the signal had been weak and broken. The shuttle bay at New Memphis looked run down. Half the landing lights were broken, and rust stains covered the metal walls. Only 2 other ships were docked there, an old cargo hauler and a battered passenger liner that looked like it hadn't flown in years. Port Administrator Jake Sullivan met Danny at the airlock. Sullivan was a thin man with nervous eyes who kept checking his tablet as if he expected bad news. "Commander Martinez, welcome back to New Memphis," Sullivan said, shaking Danny's hand. "I have to say, we don't get many Defense Force officers out here anymore. Most people seem to forget we exist." "I grew up here," Danny said. "I could never forget this place." Sullivan looked surprised. "Really? I don't remember any Martinez families in the colony records." "I was adopted," Danny explained. "My guardian's name was Maya Johnson. She ran a milk delivery service." "Oh, Maya." Sullivan's face brightened. "Everyone knows Maya. Good woman, hard worker, though I have to say times have been tough for her lately. For everyone here, really." Danny felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "What do you mean?" Sullivan sighed. "The mining companies pulled out 3 years ago, automated everything. Most people left to find work on other colonies. The ones who stayed, well, there's not much work left. Maya's been struggling like everyone else." Danny left the port and walked through the streets of New Memphis. The colony was like a ghost town. Many of the buildings he remembered were empty, their windows dark. Shops that had been busy when he was young were boarded up. The few people he saw looked tired and poor. He found Maya's old apartment building above the milk depot. The depot was closed, a sign on the door saying "out of business." Danny climbed the stairs to Maya's apartment, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The door to apartment 3B was thin and cheap, much cheaper than the door Danny remembered. He knocked. Softly. "Just a moment," came Maya's voice from inside. The door opened and Danny saw Maya for the first time in 5 years. She looked older, much older. Her hair was completely gray now and she had lost weight. Her clothes were clean but worn, but her smile was the same warm smile he remembered from childhood. "Danny?" she whispered, as if she couldn't believe her eyes. "Hello, Mama Maya." She pulled him into a tight hug, and Danny felt like he was 8 years old again, safe in the arms of the woman who had saved him. Maya's apartment was tiny, much smaller than the place where Danny had grown up. One room that served as bedroom, kitchen, and living room. A small bathroom with a shower that dripped constantly. The furniture was old and mismatched, clearly bought second-hand. "I'm sorry the place is such a mess," Maya said, hurrying to clear newspapers off the only chair. "I wasn't expecting company." Danny looked around the small space and felt ashamed. He had been living in officers' quarters on starships, staying in expensive hotels when he traveled for conferences. Meanwhile, Maya was living in poverty. Maya, why didn't you tell me things were this bad?" Maya sat down on the edge of her narrow bed. "You had your own life to live, son, your own career to build. I didn't want to be a burden." "A burden?" Danny sat down next to her. "You gave me everything. You sacrificed everything for me. You could never be a burden." Maya smiled and touched his face gently. "Look at you. A commander in the Defense Force. I kept all the newspaper articles about your discoveries, your promotions. I'm so proud of you." She showed him a box filled with clippings from colony newspapers and scientific journals. Articles about his research into alien technology. Photos from award ceremonies. Reports about the new defensive systems he had helped develop. "I tell everyone about my boy Danny," Maya said. "How he went from New Memphis to Mars Tech to the Defense Force. How he's making the galaxy safer for all of us." Danny picked up one of the articles. It described how his improved communication systems had helped coordinate relief efforts after a pirate attack on the Vega colonies. Hundreds of lives had been saved because rescue ships could communicate instantly across vast distances. "I never would have achieved any of this without you," Danny said. "You saved my life, but you did more than that." You taught me how to be a good person, how to work hard, how to care about others. Maya shook her head. You did all the hard work, Danny. You earned everything you achieved. No, Danny said firmly. We did it together, and now I want to do something together again. Maya looked confused. What do you mean? Danny pulled out a tablet and showed her files he had been working on during the long trip to New Memphis. Plans for a research facility, job creation programs, educational initiatives. I want to bring New Memphis back to life, Danny said. And I want you to help me do it. Maya stared at the tablet, not understanding what she was seeing. Danny, this looks like it would cost millions of credits. I have millions of credits, Danny said. My patents on alien communication technology have made me very wealthy. But money isn't the point. The point is using that money to honor the woman who made it all possible. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me, Danny said. Say you'll be my partner in giving other people the chances you gave me. 6 months later, construction crews were working around the clock to build the Johnson Research Center on the outskirts of New Memphis Colony. Danny had chosen the location carefully, close enough to town that people could walk to work, but far enough away that the research activities wouldn't disturb anyone. Maya stood next to Danny watching the workers install the main power core. She still couldn't believe this was really happening. The research center would employ 300 people when it was finished. Good jobs with good pay, the kind that had disappeared when the mining companies left. Are you sure about naming it after me? Maya asked for the 10th time that week. I'm sure, Danny said. This whole project exists because of what you did 20 years ago. Your name should be on it. The Maya Johnson Foundation had been Danny's first project. Within 2 months of his return to New Memphis, the foundation was providing scholarships to students from poor families across the Outer Rim colonies. It also offered job training programs for adults who had lost work when industries moved away. Maya served as the foundation's chairwoman, a job that gave her more purpose and respect than she had ever imagined. She traveled to other struggling colonies, meeting with families and helping them apply for assistance. Everywhere she went, people treated her like someone important. But the research center was Danny's biggest achievement. He had used his connections in the Defense Force and his knowledge of alien technology to create something completely new. The center would study ways to improve life in the outer colonies. Better communication systems, more efficient power, generation advanced medical equipment that could work without expensive maintenance. The center's first major project was developing a new type of food synthesizer that could create nutritious meals from basic materials available on any colony. Danny remembered the days when Maya had worked extra hours just to buy him decent food. Now no child in the Outer Rim would have to go hungry. Dr. Helen Ross, Danny's former professor from Mars Tech, had agreed to serve as the center's research director. She brought a team of brilliant scientists who were excited to work on projects that would help ordinary people instead of just advancing abstract knowledge. The beauty of this place, Dr. Ross told a group of visiting journalists, is that we're not just doing research in isolation. We're working directly with the communities that will use our discoveries. Maya's official title was Community Liaison, but everyone knew she was much more than that. She made sure the research teams understood what life was really like for people in places like New Memphis. When scientists proposed solutions that sounded good on paper but wouldn't work in practice, Maya helped them think of better ideas. The day before the center's official opening, Danny and Maya walked through the completed facility together. The laboratories were filled with equipment that represented the latest in human and adapted alien technology. The living quarters would house visiting researchers and students from across human space. The community center would provide meeting spaces and educational programs for local residents. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't saved me? Danny asked as they stood in the main laboratory. Maya was quiet for a moment. I try not to think about things like that. What matters is what did happen. But don't you see how amazing this is? Danny gestured around the lab. One decision you made, one moment when you chose to help a child you didn't even know, led to all of this. Hundreds of jobs, thousands of students getting scholarships, new technologies that will help millions of people. Maya smiled. You give me too much credit, son. You're the one who did all the hard work. We did it together, Danny said. We've always been a team. The opening ceremony was held the next morning. Representatives from dozens of colonies attended, along with officials from the Colonial Defense Force and journalists from the major news networks. Danny had insisted that Maya give the first speech. Standing at the podium, looking out at the crowd of important people, Maya felt nervous for the first time in months. But then she saw Danny in the front row, smiling at her with the same trust and love she had seen in his 8-year-old eyes. 20 years ago, Maya began, I was just a woman driving a milk truck through the rough parts of town. I heard a child crying and I did what anyone should do. I helped him. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. I just did what felt right. She paused and looked directly at Danny. What I learned from that experience is that small acts of kindness can grow into something bigger than we ever imagined. When we help each other, when we refuse to look the other way when someone needs us, we plant seeds that can bloom in ways we never expected. The crowd applauded, but Maya wasn't finished. This research center isn't really about advanced technology or scientific discoveries, though we'll do plenty of both. It's about the idea that every person has value, that every life matters, that every community deserves a chance to thrive. That's what Danny learned growing up here in New Memphis, and that's what he's bringing back to share with all of us. When Maya finished speaking, the applause was thunderous. Danny joined her at the podium and they cut the ribbon together, officially opening the Johnson Research Center. That evening, as the sun set over New Memphis, Danny and Maya sat on the observation deck of the research center. The colony looked different now. Lights were on in buildings that had been dark for years. People walked the streets with purpose and hope. Children played in parks that had been empty and forgotten. You know what the best part is? Maya said, watching a group of kids playing with a ball in the street below. What's that? Those children down there. They're growing up in a place where they know anything is possible, where they can dream big, dreams, and have real chances to achieve them. Just like you did. Danny reached over and took Maya's hand. Just like we both did. As the stars came out above New Memphis, the research center's lights glowed softly in the darkness. Inside, scientists were already at work on projects that would change lives across the galaxy. But the most important work had been done years ago, in a moment of compassion that proved the power of human kindness to echo across time and space.